welcome. We're gonna try and get some practice in while we have some time. And I just wanna find this. I'm already in my horse stance. No time to bundle up to get outside because I have to teach very soon. So this is what it is and it's where we are. I'm gonna just copy that. I'm just already in my horse stance between classes here. So there we go, found it. I don't think I'm gonna have much time to do a warm-up, but we're gonna do what we can. We're gonna do what we can. I think the idea here, I don't see much in the way of where I'm gonna share it, so I don't think I'm gonna do it too much, but that's okay. We're going to be practicing a little bit in the little bit of time that we have. Good, I don't see too much else. All right, so that's good. Hi, Belinda, hooray! I really hope that your opening goes fantastically. Very excited for you. So here's the horse stance. I'm gonna just sink in. I'm gonna practice some single weighted horse stance the way we've been doing the last few days. It feels odd to be inside for this one, but it is what it is. As you guys get a tour of the art on the walls this time. But I'm looking at the sun falling through the bare trees, seemingly about to melt all that snow. So I've just been sinking down, working on tracking the knees, working on keeping my posture. Good. And then single weighted horse stance. Good. Careful not to tip. Single weighted horse stance practice. Shift. I'll start my note for what it is we're doing. I'm so delighted to see Belinda here. Like, super warming. I have my scratch pad for this. I'll shift to the other side. Going through my notes about Reho and Seiza here. There's my scratch pad. So we did knee, femur, single weighted horse stance. Good. Okay. Boy, I feel so energized. We just had a great class on lung energy and Tai Chi Chuan and Neidan even, and the philosophies of the Tai Chi Tu and Yin Yang. It's really just got me going. Really liked that, and the students were really into it, which of course is a big part for me that really clicks. So I've done my single weighted. I want to get into, I don't know if my next student will get here early, so I'm going to kind of rush through, but this is a practice session for cross stance. So I've just already sat into the cross stance here. We talked about a few different versions. I have my feet 90 degrees in this version. So kind of a sawtooth feeling where here and here, although that's probably, yeah, that's fine, just like that. So that's where my feet are. And I want to make sure that my knee tracks, femur tracks. I don't have that knee going collapsed in or going too far forward. And Of course, I'll do this in profile. When I'm sat in, my rear heel is up. I feel a sense of my front knee dropping in the direction of the popliteal fossa or the calf or the Achilles, depending on the flexibility you have and the separation of the feet, which are quite linked anyway. So the weight will be forward. Most of your weight will be forward, but it's not quite an empty stance. So I think of it usually like 90-10%, 90% on the front leg, but you could certainly vary it so you have an empty stance, and I'm like 99% forward, but it's generally a stance that you're going to encounter, and you're going to tire in that bent weighted leg. Good. So I'll do this in profile and settle in to that. Probably don't have to yell quite so much because we don't have the wind now that I'm in the studio. Try not to just lean forward. Try not to strain either knee, but the knee that has the weight in its leg is going to be the one that will be a challenge for you. This is frequently a stance that's done pivoting, so you'll pivot into one side or the other or step. And I'm trying to transition and step out of it so that we kind of come back to neutral, so we can rediscover it from whole cloth rather than a pivot, which is a little bit more complex thing to do, and I haven't taught it in this forum. A pivot will help you find your way into it pretty well, but it has its own difficulties. So I'm going to do a little ratchet practice. So I'm going to come into the least version of the stance where my heel is just barely off the ground. I'll make a note of that too. I'm glad I'm able to do this in the waning sunlight. I had such a long day of classes, I thought, I'm not going to get till it's dark, and in that case I'd have to be indoors. But the way the schedule went today, by the time I set myself up to be outdoors, I really have a 15-minute session. So anyway, I said I was going to ratchet and I didn't, so we'll try it again. I got to talk and I just did the static. So I'm in a very barely sat in cross stance, so my back heel is just barely off the ground, probably even the sole of the slipper is touching, I don't know. And I'm going to be down here for a breath cycle, and then I'm going to sink and rest in that breath cycle, and then sink and rest in that breath cycle. And then sink and rest in that breath cycle. And then sink and rest in that breath cycle. Now you might have set yourself up so that if you keep sinking, your legs are in the way of your legs. So don't keep going down even if I do. Then you can start coming up, or you can come up all at once. But if I start myself very small, I might kind of find that I really can't go lower because my knee is in the way, my calf is in the way of my knee, and if I want to go lower, I have to push my knee out, which is not the stance. If I had known I was going to go that lower, I might have started a little bit further away so that I can sink down, rather like we did with the unicorn stance, or the Qilin stance. So this time I'm going to step to the rear into my T stance, my cross stance. So rather than stepping forward, I'm going to step to the rear. So So as I do that, I'm going to just kind of face this corner so that in terms of the direction I'm facing, my weighted leg is turned open. So in terms of facing you, my foot would be turned relative to where I'm facing, as opposed to facing you like we'd see in an awful lot of stances. We'd see the lead foot facing the direction of intention. I forgot to ratchet. I'll start now. With the breath, go down a little bit. So in going down, we're going to feel that heel come up, the unweighted heel. And then the same. And then the same. Or perhaps for you, time to just stand up. And then the same if you have the time and space and energy. What we don't want to do is go down so far. So maybe I'll just ratchet again, and then when I get there, I'll tell you. So I've gotten down so far and I'm so tired that I really need to change my posture or seek extrinsic support to get myself up. That's not a safe way to practice. I don't want to practice a stance to failure. I suppose if you were to do that, you would do that on the beach where you can just fall into the sand or the water and just have that experience. I guess that would be something. But generally, the stance is the thing that's helping me be a biped and stay up here, right? And so practicing the stance to failure is not something I want to do. It depends on my stance. So if I get to the point of sincerely tired and sincerely recognizing that's enough and I'm not cutting out early because of a lack of will, or zhi in Chinese, then it's time to come up and start to recognize that if I force myself down a little bit longer, a little bit further, can I still get out? It's rather like hiking in the woods, going down in a stance. You might think I have more hike in me. Let me, get a few more kilometers. But you have to hike back generally, right, to the trailhead. And so if you spend more than half your energy going into it, right, you're not going to have enough to get out. And if you get out anyway, it's going to be after endangering yourself. Now, I could certainly ratchet into the stance and then just kind of come out all at once, which means I can spend more than half my energy getting into the stance. But the point is, I want to have enough to come out of it the way I plan to come out of it, right? And perhaps even have a backup plan, like I'm planning to ratchet out, and maybe I can do a partial ratchet and then just all at once, or maybe when I get to the point where I'm ready to ratchet my way out, you know what? Here I am, just good, I need a massage, and that's going to be fine. So I'll be stepping back into my cross stance this time. This is good. This looks like we might actually get a little bit of a practice in before I have to teach. So I'm glad about that. I can't tell if anybody's joined us. If we do more of this, we'll get into some places where we can sort of transition these stances. So I've just kind of ratcheted down. And then when I'm ready, come out and try and coordinate this with the breath. Inhale, come out. So that's an all at once, but not anxious, not overly fast, just not ratchet slow. So I'll do this again from here, and step back. Tracking the knee femur, keeping the posture, remembering to breathe, coordinating the ratcheting with the breath cycle, Feeling that heel rise, feeling that knee descend towards the back of the lower leg, of the weighted leg. So popliteal fossa, gastroc, soleus, Achilles, heel, whatever you're going to be, is going to be fine. And then ratcheting down. And then ratcheting down. And then ratcheting down. And then all at once. In that case, we had ratcheted up previously. So I'm going to practice the stance stepping to the rear into the stance, coming back, and then to the fore of the stance. So I'm in the same stance. So I'll move the cane since we did that demo. So to the rear. You can just let the trunk turn naturally here, but you can also certainly determine for yourself that I'm going to step this foot back, but I'm going to turn towards the front, and that would be fine too. And then touching in on the horse, and then stepping forward. And then back, and then the other side. I'll finish in a minute. You can certainly ratchet down on these, but we did a fair amount of that, so. Touching in on this, like a nice touchstone of central equilibrium, balance, zoned in, centeredness, familiar, and then the effort of the new stance. Right? Checking out, like, where's that knee and femur tracking? Where's the weight in the foot that you have it in? Can you feel how that heel rises as its knee sinks? Can you feel how it's not exactly an empty stance, but approaching it? And then come back, touch in here. Come back, touch in here. Nice challenge just to kind of be in your cross stance, maybe 2/3 of the way down to what you would count as your low, and see if you can find yourself there for 90 seconds. And then exit well. If you can't exit the exercise well, you weren't doing the exercise well. And by well, I mean beyond just doing it appropriately, doing it for the appropriate amount of time or repetitions. In other words, doing the right thing in the wrong rhythm or for the wrong duration or the wrong number of repetitions, the right thing becomes the wrong thing. Come back in. So there's a little cross stance practice. We'll do the circles that we were practicing this week. Then knee, then ankle. Careful not to get yourself cantilever and imagining your hands are going to help you. Find your balance, own your balance, know your balance on one leg. Hip, both directions, knee, both directions, ankle, both directions, check. Check in with yourself when you do this. Once people get on one leg, they often get shallow breathing. Kind of feeling while they're breathing here, they might feel their shoulders tighten and lift. Knee, hip. Okay. Thank you.